My name is Allegra Integra, and today I'm going to talk about my 2021 reading goals. I don't usually set goals for reading, but I realized that when I don't do that, I don't do as much reading as I want to. I wish I were a super intrinsically motivated person, but I'm not, and setting goals is a really good way for me to kind of actually get stuff done, whether that be for work or for fun. That's probably a little bit sad that I have to schedule my fun, but that's the type of person I am, so here we go. First off, I am going to keep my goal pretty reasonable, I think, for the total amount of books I want to read this year. I'm hoping to read 40 books this year. That's slightly less than a book a week. I kind of go through a lot of reading slump phases, so I want to give myself some grace, and I feel if I set it too high, I'm going to get really discouraged. I might check in on that goal at the 6-month mark of the year, so in June or July, and I might up that to see if that makes sense. I highly doubt that I'll lower it, though. I think 40 is a good number for me. I read 45 books last year. I'm hoping 2021 will include a little bit more space to have social events safely in the second half of the year, which would definitely cut into my reading time. I'm an extrovert, and as soon as it's safe for me to be able to spend a lot of time with my friends, I'm definitely going to be doing that, and I don't want to feel guilty about missing out on reading time when I've missed out on a year of social time with people I care about. The next goal that I want to really focus on is read more poetry. I mentioned this in my library haul book that I posted, library book haul that I posted previously when I brought up the book Soft Science. So I used to write a lot of poetry. That has really fallen by the wayside because most of that was for slam poetry events. Yes, I'm that nerd and I miss it a lot. And the only way that I can really get better or even get my poetry fix right now is to read others' poetry. I'm not putting a specific number on this goal. I didn't read, I think, any poetry in 2020, so that's why I'm just making this one a little bit less specific. I might change that again too. Most of these will probably be reviewed in June or so, and just figure out what I'm going to do from there. And my next goal is a bit more specific. Unlike the poetry goal, I want to read at least 6 nonfiction books this year. I read a lot of nonfiction for work, or I should be reading more nonfiction for work to kind of grow in my career. But I also really want to learn more about the world in general. I think fiction is amazing. I love fiction. It's the vast majority of what I read, but I want to remain curious and be a student of the world and kind of a student of myself. There are a couple of self-helpy books that I'm including in this. I don't know how much I'm going to review those because that's a very personal topic, but that's kind of related to what I do for work, and I'm constantly trying to improve myself. I also think 6 nonfiction books is super attainable because that's 1 book every 2 months. I have a feeling I'm going to actually blow past that because there's a lot of nonfiction books I've been recommended recently that are piquing my interest, but I'm going to stick with that 6 books for right now and probably go past that and be pretty happy about it. My next goal that I want to focus on in 2021 is pretty popular across BookTube and even in my social circles. I'm wanting to read a bit more diversely. I feel I actually do a decent job at this. Last year, out of 45 books that I read, 19 of them were by people of color, so authors of color. But that doesn't mean that I should stop paying attention to the types of works that I'm reading, to the authors' works that I'm consuming. I really enjoy having a diverse reading list because it makes for a more interesting experience in this hobby. I like reading from other people's perspectives. I think it makes for more interesting storytelling because there's different traditions and there's different experiences, and part of why I read is to experience something through someone else's eyes. And I think it's just a good self-betterment goal. One of the big focuses I actually want to do with reading more diversely this year is reading more own voices in queer representation. Didn't have a lot of queer rep in the books I read last year. There was a little bit, but I think especially if I start to explore the romance genre more, I will find more of this. It's something that's near and dear to my heart as a member of that community, so it makes sense that I should be focusing on that, and I definitely have fallen flat in the last few years in that regard. also want to read at least 3 translated books this year. I think I read 2 translated books last year, so that's a pretty minor goal. Again, since I'm only planning on reading about 40 to 50 books this year, I think 3 to 4 books that are translated is a good start. I have a couple in mind, but I'm definitely looking for recommendations as well. And finally, within that diversity goal, I also plan on just being conscious like I was last year and have been in the past about not only race and ethnicity, but life experiences, people from different class structures, people from different parts of the world, people whose experiences are different than mine, and reading fiction and nonfiction by those folks. Alright, so this next one probably seems a little silly. So I'm majorly a library user, and I'm constantly getting new books from the library, so I feel like my to-be-read pile will never have a dent in it. But I do occasionally buy books, and I have in the past bought books with the best intentions to read them, and then they slowly piled up because I was focusing on my library books, because those have to go back to the library. There is a due date on those, so I feel like I prioritize those more, which means a lot of really great books that I've had my eye on for a long time are just gathering dust. So this year, I'm hoping to make a dent in my physical TBR. I gathered up most of them. Like I said, I don't buy a ton of books, but I am a member of the Book of the Month subscription. So here is an example. I think these are all of the books that I own that I haven't read, but I'm not sure. That's quite a few. There's a translated book in there, which would help me meet one of my other goals. That's a good workout there. But it's not too bad. I don't have a set number of these that I want to finish. I've got to put these down. I didn't include the graphic novels that I have access to. I may not own them, but there are physical copies in my house. I'm very lucky that I live with other book lovers who let me borrow their books that I want to read. But I want to at least make a significant dent in that, especially because I know I'll be getting more Book of the Month books, and I probably will fall down and buy myself some books around my birthday because it's who I am as a person. But that's my physical book list that I want to get down now of the books I own. I think I also own some ebooks that I haven't read. I haven't looked through those yet. So don't hold me to anything as far as numbers on this goes, but there are plans and months that some of these books are assigned to. I should probably look at my ebooks too. My next goal is to allow myself to not finish books that I'm not enjoying. I have historically pushed myself to read books from start to finish. I was that kid in high school who prided herself on always finishing a book even if I hated it. I have other hobbies now. I have a lot of stuff going on. I work a full-time job. I'm trying to learn bass guitar. I'm a circus performer. I would like to have a social life again when it's safe to do that. And so my time is precious. My time is important to me. And if I'm not enjoying a book, and I'll allow myself to hate read, because that's its own kind of joy. But if I'm just bored, or I'm not feeling like that book is I'm not hitting at the right time for me, I'm at least going to allow myself to pause, if not fully DNF a book that I'm reading. I have already DNF'd one book this year. I will talk about that in my wrap-up. I only DNF'd one book last year. I paused a couple, but I know I'm coming back to them. It was because they're library books and I'm waiting. They're on hold at the library, otherwise I would have them done. But I only DNF'd one book last year. And life's too short to read stuff you don't like. This is a hobby that's supposed to be fun. I'm going to challenge myself and try to read stuff that's hard, that might take me a while to get through, but I'm not going to read something that just makes me miserable. And last but not least, I am going to reread Lord of the Rings this year. I am a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. I read it in high school, and I used to read it every year, which is quite the commitment. They're not small books, but I haven't done that in a really long time, and I need some comfort. I need a book that I know that I'm going to love. I need a fantasy world that makes sense to me, that I don't have to relearn in the first half of the book to really get into the story. And I miss Middle Earth. After all of the stress and unprecedented times that we've all been through, myself included, 2020 was not an easy year. It's time for me to read something for comfort food that I know is going to be comfort food. I don't reread a lot anymore, but Lord of the Rings is one of those series that I'm always going to go back to, and it's well overdue that I do that. That's all that I've got for goals for 2021. This is a pretty quick video. I'm okay with that. You're probably okay with that. I don't know what I'm saying, but I haven't done reading goals like this in a long time, and I'm really excited to see where I go with these. It's time for me to be more focused in everything that I do, and reading is one of those goals or one of those hobbies that it's really easy to set concrete goals and see how you're moving forward. And that's all that I have for today. I'll see you later. Bye.